Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Zenith Prime Station and felt her heart racing with excitement. Around her, 50,000 humans talked and laughed, taking pictures and recording videos to send home. This was the biggest moment in human history. First contact. Real first contact. Not just radio signals or distant observations, but actual face-to-face, meeting with aliens who ruled thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The station was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Through the transparent walls, Sarah could see Earth's small fleet of ships docked nearby. They looked tiny compared to the alien vessels surrounding them. Some of those ships were kilometers long, shaped like crystals or organic creatures or geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Sarah's daughter, Lisa, stood beside her, wearing her new Earth Defense Force uniform. Lisa had wanted to be here so badly, had begged to be included in the cultural exchange program. At 23 years old, she was one of the youngest people in the delegation. She kept pointing at different aliens walking past, whispering questions about what species they might be. "Mom, look at that one," Lisa said, grabbing Sarah's arm. "It's like a walking jellyfish made of light." Sarah smiled. She felt the same wonder her daughter did. All around them, humans mingled with a few alien observers. Scientists compared notes with strange beings who communicated through color changes. Diplomats practiced the formal greetings they had learned. Children played games with alien children. His parents had come to see the newest species join the galactic community. The ceremony was supposed to start in 10 minutes. Sarah checked her tablet again, reviewing her speech. As Earth's lead ambassador, she would be the first human to formally address the Galactic Council. She had practiced the words 1,000 times, had memorized every gesture and protocol. The aliens had taught them over the past year of preparation. The lights in the observation deck dimmed. A pleasant chime echoed through the massive space. Everyone quieted down, turning toward the central platform where 12 enormous chairs stood in a circle. Those chairs had remained empty since the humans arrived, but now they began to fill. The Galactic Council members materialized or walked or floated into position. Sarah recognized some of them from the educational materials Earth had received. There was Vrask, the Prime Arbiter, who looked like a tall humanoid made of purple crystal. Light pulsed inside his body like a heartbeat. Beside him sat a massive creature that resembled an elephant mixed with a spider. Another looked like living water held together by some invisible force. Vrask stood and raised one crystalline hand. His voice came through speakers everywhere, translated instantly into dozens of languages. "Humans of Earth," he said. "Welcome to Zenith Prime. Welcome to the greater galactic community." The crowd erupted in cheers. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. They had done it. Humanity had finally made it to the stars and been accepted. "We have watched your species for 100 of your years," Vrask continued. "We have seen you develop, grow, and finally achieve faster than light travel. You have met the minimum requirements for consideration as a council species." Sarah noticed something odd in his tone. The way he said minimum requirements felt cold somehow, but she pushed the thought away. This was a joyous occasion. "However," Vrask said, and the words seemed to suck all the warmth from the room, "before any species joins our peaceful coalition, it must first understand the fundamental principle that has kept the galaxy stable for 10,000 years. They must witness the price of chaos." Sarah's tablet buzzed. An alert flashed across the screen, but before she could read it, the walls changed. The transparent sections that showed space outside suddenly became opaque. More than that, they began to glow with a faint blue energy around the observation deck. Doors slammed shut with a heavy metallic clang. Sarah heard people gasp. Someone screamed. Lisa grabbed her mother's hand. "What's happening?" Lisa whispered. Energy barriers flickered into existence, dividing the crowd into sections. Sarah found herself pressed against a barrier with Lisa and about 200 other people. The barrier hummed with power. When someone tried to touch it, they jerked back with a cry of pain. "Do not be alarmed," Vrask said, but his voice held no comfort. "What you are about to experience is necessary. It is educational. Every species that has joined the Council has gone through this demonstration. It ensures compliance. It ensures peace." Sarah's blood ran cold. She looked at her tablet. The alert that had flashed earlier was from Dr. Okonkwo, one of Earth's lead scientists. The message was simple and terrible. It's a trap. But the message had come too late. Vrask gestured and devices emerged from the ceiling. They looked like mechanical flowers made of metal petals, each one pointing at a different section of trapped humans. Sarah recognized weapon emplacements when she saw them, even alien ones. The price of chaos, Vrask said, is death. Not quick death. Not painless death, but death with understanding. Our mercy render weapons preserve your consciousness throughout the dying process. You will feel everything. You will understand everything. And through you, your species will learn what happens to those who disturb the galactic order. Sarah heard screaming now. Real screaming. People throwing themselves against the barriers, trying to break through. Parents covering their children's eyes. Scientists shouting demands for explanation. This is being broadcast to every communication device on your planet, Vrask continued calmly. Your families are watching. Your leaders are watching. Your entire species is watching. In 47 minutes, 50,000 of you will be dead. And Earth will understand its place in the hierarchy. The weapons powered up with a sound like crystals singing. Sarah pulled Lisa close, holding her daughter tight. Lisa was sobbing, asking why, asking what they had done wrong. I love you, Sarah whispered. I love you so much. The first weapon fired. Someone in the far section began to scream, a sound of such pure agony that it didn't seem human anymore. The sound went on, impossible to ignore, impossible to block out. Sarah saw the person writhing on the floor, their body glowing with that same blue energy from the barriers. One by one, the weapons began to fire. The screaming built into a chorus of horror. Sarah held Lisa and waited for their turn. She kept her eyes open. She wanted to see Vrask's face. She wanted to remember it. If somehow, impossibly, any part of her survived this, she wanted to remember the face of the monster who did this. When their weapon fired, the pain was beyond description. But through it all, Sarah held one thought. One burning, furious thought that she screamed with her last breath and hoped somehow reached Earth. Make them pay. Dr. James Okonkwo watched his wife die on live television. He sat in their apartment in Lagos, frozen in his chair, as the broadcast showed her final moments. The weapon hit her, and she screamed for 11 minutes before her body finally stopped moving. The aliens made sure the cameras captured every second. Around the world, billions of people watched the same nightmare. In Beijing, a father collapsed as he watched his daughter die. In New York, a classroom full of students saw their teacher murdered. In Mumbai, Moscow, Snow, Palo, and every city on Earth, people watched 50,000 humans being killed slowly and deliberately. While alien creatures explained why this was necessary for peace, the broadcast ended with Vrask's message. 6 galactic standard cycles. Submit or face extinction. Dismantle all military forces. Hand over planetary governance codes. Become slaves or die. James sat in silence for a long time after the broadcast ended. Outside, he could hear people screaming, crying, rioting. Emergency sirens wailed. But inside his apartment, everything was quiet. On the wall, a photo of his wife smiled at him. She had been so excited to go to Zenith Prime. She had told him it would be the greatest adventure of her life. His phone rang. It was General Torres from the United Earth Defense Council. James answered. We're meeting in 2 hours, Torres said. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Underground bunker in Geneva? We need every top scientist, every military strategist, every engineer who can help. Can you come? Yes, James said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Flat. Empty. I'll be there. He hung up and looked at his wife's photo again. Then he went to his computer and started downloading every piece of data Earth had collected about the Galactic Council. Their technology. Their weapons. Their ships. Everything. The emergency council meeting included representatives from every nation on Earth. Presidents. Generals. Scientists. And intelligence officers all gathered in a massive underground facility that had been built during the last global crisis. The room was packed with people who had just watched their loved ones die, General Torres stood at the front of the room. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "We have 6 cycles to respond," she said. "That's approximately 42 Earth days. The Council expects us to submit. They've done this demonstration to 43 other species before us. Every single one surrendered completely. Then they don't know humans very well," someone said from the back of the room. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. James listened to the anger in those voices. This wasn't the panicked fear the Council expected. This was something else. Something colder and more dangerous. President Morrison of the North American Federation stood. "I think I speak for everyone here when I say that submission is not an option. The question is, what can we do? They have thousands of worlds, millions of ships, technology far beyond ours." "Actually," James said, surprising himself by speaking up, "their technology isn't as advanced as we thought." Everyone turned to look at him. He stood on shaking legs and walked to the front of the room. Someone handed him a tablet, and he connected it to the main display screen. "I've spent the last 6 hours analyzing the broadcast frame by frame," James said. "The weapons they used, the energy barriers, the station itself. I've compared it against our theoretical models. The Council's technology is advanced, yes, but it's not impossible. It's not even improbable. It's based on principles we already understand." He pulled up diagrams on the screen. "Their faster-than-light drives use quantum tunneling effects. We theorized the same thing 15 years ago, but couldn't generate enough power. Their energy weapons use directed plasma containment. We have similar weapons in testing. Their shields are electromagnetic barriers layered with gravitational distortion. Again, something we've experimented with." "What are you saying?" Torres asked. "I'm saying they're not gods," James replied. "They're just older. They've had thousands of years to refine these technologies, but the underlying science is the same, which means we can match it. We can beat it. We just need time and resources." A Chinese admiral named Wei stood up. "How much time? Give me every physicist, every engineer, every manufacturing facility on Earth, working together," James said. "Give me the kind of focused effort humanity hasn't seen since World War II. Give me 40 days. I'll give you weapons that can hurt them." The room erupted in discussion. Some people thought it was impossible. Others called it suicide. But more and more voices joined in agreement. They had 42 days. They could either spend that time begging for mercy or preparing for war. President Morrison called for a vote. It was unanimous. Earth would not submit. Earth would fight. Over the next 40 days, the planet transformed. Every military facility went dark, cutting off all external communications. The Council probably thought Earth was panicking, going into chaos. They were half right. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. Purposeful chaos. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Shipyards that built cargo vessels started building warships. Every university, every research lab, every tech company contributed to the effort. The entire species united with a single goal: make the aliens pay. James worked 20-hour days in a lab deep beneath the Alps. His team of 300 scientists from 40 different nations analyzed every second of the Council broadcast. They identified weaknesses in the alien shields. They found the power source frequency for the Mercy Render weapons. They discovered that Council ships used predictable communication protocols that could be jammed or hijacked. But more than technology, they learned about psychology. The Council relied on fear. They expected submission. They had grown comfortable, complacent. They hadn't fought a real war in thousands of years because their demonstration tactic always worked. They showed overwhelming force, and species surrendered. "They're bullies," James said to his team one night. "Bullies with advanced technology, but bullies nonetheless. And like all bullies, they don't know what to do when someone fights back." The weapons came together faster than anyone expected. The first prototype plasma cannon that could penetrate Council shields was tested on day 23. The first operational FTL-capable warship equipped with Earth's new weapons rolled out of a hidden shipyard in the asteroid belt on day 30-5. By day 40, Earth had a fleet. Not a large fleet by Council standards. Only 37 ships. But each one was crammed with weapons specifically designed to counter Council technology. Each one was crewed by volunteers who had lost family members in the massacre. Each one carried a single mission: justice. The 6 cycles ended. The Council sent their follow-up message demanding Earth's surrender codes. They probably expected groveling, begging, promises of obedience instead. They got silence. Then, on what would have been Cycle 7, the Council's orbital platforms above their 12 core worlds simultaneously experienced catastrophic systems failures. Weapons went offline. Shields dropped. Communications crashed, and human ships appeared in their skies. Admiral Marcus Stone broadcast from the flagship Remembrance. It's a ship named for all 50,000 victims. His message was simple and was transmitted on every frequency the Council used. Galactic Council, Stone said, you are hereby charged with 50,000 counts of murder, conspiracy to commit genocide, and crimes against sapient life. You will stand trial for your actions. You can come peacefully, or we will come get you. Choose carefully. The message ended with a list. 50,000 names scrolled across every screen in Council space. Each victim's name, their age, their face, their story. The list took 17 minutes to display completely. The Council laughed at the message. They mobilized their fleets. They prepared to crush this upstart species that dared to challenge them. They had no idea what was coming. James watched the first battle reports come in from his lab. 3 Council dreadnoughts had engaged Admiral Stone's carrier group near Helican 4. The engagement lasted for minutes. The Council ships were disabled, their crews captured. James looked at his wife's photo, which he had taped to his workstation. They're going to pay, he whispered. I promise you, they're all going to pay. Admiral Marcus Stone watched the 3 Council dreadnoughts explode across his tactical display. Not destroyed, but disabled. Their weapons offline. Their shields collapsed. Their crews trapped inside ships that no longer responded to commands. Boarding teams move in, Stone ordered. I want every single crew member alive and in custody. They're prisoners of war, and we will treat them according to the conventions of warfare. No revenge killings. No torture. We're better than that. The young captain beside him looked confused. Sir, they murdered 50,000 civilians. They don't deserve mercy. They deserve a trial, Stone said firmly. They deserve to face justice. That's the difference between us and them. That's what we're fighting for. Do you understand? The captain nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Stone turned back to the display. This was the first real battle between human and Council forces. The Helican system was on the edge of Council space, barely defended because the Council never expected to need defenses. They ruled through fear, not military might. Their ships were impressive, but designed more for intimidation than actual combat. Human ships were different. Smaller, faster, and equipped with weapons that had been built specifically to counter every advantage the Council had. The engineers back on Earth had done their job well. Too well, perhaps. The battle had been so one-sided that Stone almost felt bad about it. Almost his communications officer looked up. Sir, we're getting a transmission from Council High Command. They want to negotiate. Tell them negotiations happen at the trial, Stone said. We gave them a chance to surrender peacefully. They chose war. Now they get to live with that choice. Over the next 3 weeks, the pattern repeated across a dozen systems. Council fleets engaged human forces and lost. The battles weren't even close. Human ships used tactics the Council had never seen before. They attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. They used electronic warfare to confuse sensors. They employed gravitational weapons that ripped shields apart. They moved like wolves hunting prey, coordinated and relentless. But what disturbed the Council most wasn't the losses. It was the way humans fought. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible. They took prisoners. They followed rules of engagement even when winning. They treated captured crews with medical care and respect. Documenting everything, preparing for trials that they insisted would happen. The galaxy watched in shock. For 10,000 years, the Council had maintained order through overwhelming force and fear. Now a single species, barely a century into space travel, was systematically dismantling that power. News spread across thousands of worlds. Species that had submitted to the Council decades or centuries ago started asking questions. Why had they surrendered? Could they have resisted too? On the Vrelian homeworld, a peaceful species that had submitted after their own demonstration massacre 50 years earlier, protests began. Thousands of Vrelians gathered in their capital city. Holding signs that showed the names of humans killed at Zenith Prime, they chanted for freedom. They demanded their government stand up to the Council. Similar protests erupted on dozens of worlds. The Council's grip on the galaxy was crumbling, not because of human weapons, but because of human example. Species were remembering that they didn't have to live in fear. The Council convened an emergency session. Vrask stood before the other 11 members in their chamber, his crystalline body pulsing with agitated light. "These humans are a plague," he said. "They spread disorder. They inspire rebellion. We must make an example so severe that no one will ever dare challenge us again." The massive spider-elephant creature named Tholok clicked its mandibles. "What do you propose?" "We've sent 7 fleets against them. 7 fleets destroyed or captured. Our member species are questioning our authority." "Then we do what we should have done from the beginning," Vrask said. "We destroy their homeworld. We sterilize Earth completely. We broadcast it, just like we broadcast the Zenith Prime demonstration. Every species in the galaxy will watch humanity burn. They will remember the price of defiance." The Council member made of living water called Sharam rippled uncertainly. "That would be genocide. Complete extinction of an entire species. We have never gone that far before. We've never been challenged like this before," Vrask countered. "The humans think they can demand justice from us. They think they can put us on trial. We will show them what real power looks like. We will show the entire galaxy." The vote was close, but it passed. The Council authorized the creation of a sterilization fleet. 200 ships equipped with planet-killing weapons, enough firepower to crack a world in half and burn away every trace of life. They would jump directly to Earth, bypass the human military forces spread across the galaxy, and end humanity in a single devastating strike. The fleet assembled at the Council's primary shipyard. It took a week to prepare, to load the weapons, to ensure every system was perfect. They would get only one chance. If any humans survived, the psychological impact would be lost. On day 7, the fleet jumped to the Sol system. What they found waiting for them was beyond their worst nightmares. The Sol system had been transformed into a fortress. Earth itself was surrounded by 3 layers of defense platforms, each layer containing thousands of automated weapons. The asteroid belt had been turned into a minefield of disguised weapons platforms. Mars bristled with Surface-2 space cannons. Even the outer planets had defensive installations. But more than that, the entire human fleet was there. Every ship humanity had built, called back from across the galaxy to defend their homeworld. They had known this was coming. They had prepared. The Council fleet emerged from FTL and immediately came under fire from every direction. Automated defenses opened up first, overwhelming the Council's shields with sheer volume of fire. Human ships followed, darting in and out of the chaos, targeting specific weak points, coordinating their attacks through AI systems that adapted in real time. The battle was brutal. The Council ships fought desperately, trying to reach Earth, trying to complete their mission. They managed to destroy dozens of defense platforms. 3 Council vessels broke through the first 2 defensive layers, racing toward Earth with planet-killer weapons armed and ready. That's when Commander Lisa Chen made her move. She had been waiting for this moment. Her mother had died at Zenith Prime. She had spent every day since then training, preparing, knowing that eventually the Council would try to do to Earth what they had done to 50,000 humans. She commanded a cruiser called the Last Hope, positioned in a polar orbit above Earth. Lisa watched the 3 Council dreadnoughts break through on her tactical display. They were damaged, bleeding atmosphere, but still functional. Still deadly. The lead ship was charging its main weapon, targeting the North American continent. If that weapon fired, 1 billion people would die in an instant. "All crew, this is the commander," Lisa said over the ship's intercom. Her voice was calm. She had made her decision. "Evacuate to the escape pods immediately." "That's an order." "You have 60 seconds, her first officer protested. "Commander, what are you doing?" "Saving our world," Lisa said. "Now go. Tell my family I love them. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye." The crew scrambled for the escape pods. Lisa set the last hope on a collision course with the lead council dreadnought. She overrode the safety systems, pushed the engines beyond their limits, and aimed directly at the enemy vessel's weapon array. The council ship tried to evade, but it was too damaged, too slow. Lisa's cruisers struck it at full speed, both ships' reactors overloading simultaneously. The explosion was visible from the surface of Earth, a brief second sun blazing in orbit. The weapon never fired. The other 2 council dreadnoughts were destroyed by defensive platforms seconds later. The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was decided. The council fleet was destroyed. Earth survived in the aftermath. As rescue teams searched for survivors and the military counted casualties, they found Lisa's final message. She had recorded it before giving the evacuation order, uploaded it to Earth's networks on a timer. "To whoever sees this," Lisa said on the recording, "My name is Commander Lisa Chen. My mother was Ambassador Sarah Chen, murdered at Zenith Prime. I'm about to do what needs to be done to protect our world. I want everyone to know that I'm not doing this out of hate or revenge. I'm doing this because some things are worth dying for. Freedom is worth dying for. Justice is worth dying for. Earth is worth dying for. Make them pay. Make them all pay. But do it the right way. Do it with laws and trials and evidence. Show the galaxy what justice really means." The message ended. Across Earth and throughout human space, people watched it and wept. Lisa Chen became a hero, a martyr, symbol of everything humanity was fighting for. The Council's sterilization fleet was gone. Their authority was shattered. Member species were openly rebelling now, declaring independence, forming their own alliances. The galaxy was changing, and the Council was powerless to stop it. The news of the failed Earth attack spread across the galaxy within hours. Council High Command tried to suppress the information, but they couldn't control the communications networks anymore. Too many species were talking to each other, sharing information, coordinating. The iron grip the Council had maintained for 10,000 years was slipping through their fingers. On the Varelian homeworld, the protests grew into full revolution. The Varelian government declared independence from the Council, and their military refused orders to suppress the uprising. Within a week, 12 more species followed, then 20, then 50. The Council member species themselves began to fracture. Tholok, the spider elephant creature, sent a secret message to Human Command, offering to testify against the other Council members in exchange for immunity. The living water being Sharam simply vanished. Abandoning their position and hiding somewhere in deep space, Vrask watched his empire crumble from the Council chamber. His crystalline body pulsed with dark, angry colors. He had built this system. He had perfected the demonstration technique that kept thousands of species in line without costly wars. And now one species, one insignificant collection of primates from a backwater world, had destroyed everything. "We still have the core fleets," Vrask said to the few Council members who remained. "We still have our homeworlds and their defenses. We can rebuild. We can regain control." But even as he spoke, he knew it was over. The human fleet wasn't just winning battles. They were capturing Council personnel, documenting war crimes, gathering evidence for their promised trials. Every captured crew member was interviewed, recorded, and treated with a level of legal process that seemed insane to species accustomed to rule by force. Human forces moved methodically through Council space, liberating species that wanted independence and protecting those that didn't. They weren't conquerors. They didn't claim territory or demand tribute. They just kept pushing toward the core Council worlds. Following their original mission, arrest the Council, leadership, and bring them to trial. 3 months after the battle for Earth, human forces reached the borders of Kristallua, Vrask's homeworld. The planet was heavily defended with orbital platforms, shield generators, and automated defenses that made Earth's protection look modest. Vrask had spent the last weeks fortifying his home, preparing for a siege that could last years. Admiral Stone studied the defenses from his flagship. His tactical team had run hundreds of simulations. A direct assault would cost thousands of human lives. They could do it, but the casualties would be enormous. "Oh, sir," his communications officer said. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's coming from inside the capital city." Stone pulled up the message. His eyes widened. "Get me President Morrison. Now." The transmission was from a group of Crystallians, Vrask's own species. They were government officials, military commanders, and civilian leaders. And they were offering to surrender Vrask to human custody without a fight. "We have watched what you do with prisoners," the message said. "We have seen your trials. We have seen you treat captured enemies with dignity and fairness. We have also seen what our leader Vrask did at Zenith Prime. We did not know. We were told the demonstrations were necessary, that they saved lives by preventing wars. But we watched the recordings from your trials of captured council personnel. We heard the testimony. We learned that Vrask lied to us for centuries," the transmission continued. "We do not wish to die defending a war criminal. We do not wish our world destroyed for one person's crimes. If you promise to hold a fair trial, if you promise to not harm our civilian population, we will help you arrest Vrask and any of his supporters. We want justice too." Stone authorized the meeting. 3 Crystallian representatives came aboard the Remembrance under a flag of truce. They were tall beings made of blue crystal instead of purple, younger than Vrask, their internal lights flickering nervously. "Why are you doing this?" Stone asked them. "He's your leader, your own kind." The eldest Crystallian, who introduced herself as Threshold, pulsed with sad colors. "Because what he did was wrong. We did not see it before. We thought the demonstrations were about maintaining peace. But your people showed us the truth. You broadcast the testimony of survivors from the 43 other species who went through demonstrations. We heard them describe their pain, their loss. We realized we had been complicit in genocide for generations." She gestured to her companions. "My daughter was supposed to go to Zenith Prime. She was selected for the cultural exchange. At the last moment, she became sick and could not travel. I watched your ambassador Sarah Chen die. I watched thousands die. And I realized my daughter would have died too. For nothing. For Vrask's sick demonstration of power." Stone felt a chill run down his spine. "We need Vrask alive," he said. "And we need evidence. Documents, recordings, anything that proves he ordered the massacre and the other atrocities." "We have everything," Threshold said. Vrask kept meticulous records. He was proud of his demonstrations. He documented every one for the past 3,000 years. "We can give you access to all of it." The operation happened at dawn in Krystalla's time zone. Human special forces, guided by Crystallian military, infiltrated the capital city. They moved through streets where Crystallian citizens watched from windows, some cheering, others crying. The siege that everyone expected turned into a precise, surgical strike. Vrask was in his private chamber when they came for him. He was reviewing plans to evacuate to a hidden station in deep space, preparing to wage a guerrilla war against humanity. He didn't hear the door open. Didn't notice the human soldiers surrounding him until it was too late. "Vrask of Crystallia," Captain Rodriguez said, her weapon trained on the council leader. "You are under arrest for crimes against sapient life, including 50,000 counts of murder, conspiracy to commit genocide, and violations of the basic rights of sentient beings. You will be taken into custody and held for trial." Vrask's crystal body flashed with rage. "You cannot arrest me. I am the prime arbiter of the Galactic Council. I have ruled for 4,000 years. I have maintained peace across millions of worlds. You maintained fear," Rodriguez said. "There's a difference. Now you can come peacefully, or we can do this the hard way. Your choice?" Vrask lunged at her, his crystalline hands becoming weapons. But the human soldiers were ready. Stun weapons hit him from 3 directions simultaneously. The great Prime Arbiter, terror of the galaxy, crumpled to the floor unconscious. They carried him out in restraints designed specifically for his species. Crystallian citizens lined the streets, watching their former leader being taken away. Some threw rocks, others spit. Many just stood in silence, processing the reality of what their leader had done in their name. Threshold met the human team at the spaceport. She handed Captain Rodriguez a data crystal containing terabytes of information. Everything, she said. Every demonstration Vrask ever ordered. Every species that submitted. Every casualty. He kept recordings of them all. He used to watch them for entertainment. Rodriguez felt sick. Thank you for this. Your people will not be forgotten. You helped end a nightmare that lasted thousands of years. We helped create that nightmare, Threshold said quietly. We followed Vrask blindly. We trusted his vision of peace. But peace built on fear is not peace. It is just delayed war. You humans taught us that. The hard way, but you taught us. Within a week, 8 other council members were captured with similar help from their own species. The populations of these worlds had watched humans fight for justice, had seen how humans treated prisoners and conducted trials, and decided they wanted no part of defending war criminals. Only 3 council members remained at large, hiding in deep space with their most loyal followers, but their empires were gone. Their authority was dust. The Galactic Council that had ruled for 10,000 years effectively ceased to exist. Dr. James Okonkwo worked in his lab, analyzing the data crystals recovered from council worlds. What he found made him weep. 43 species, 43 demonstrations, over 2 million sentient beings murdered to enforce compliance. Vrask had documented every one with clinical precision, noting which techniques worked best, which species broke fastest, which methods of killing provided the most educational value. James looked at his wife's photo. They kept records, he said to her image. They kept records of everything. We have proof. We can make sure this never happens again. We can make sure everyone knows what they did. He continued working through the night. The trial was coming, and James was going to make sure the galaxy heard every word. The trial began exactly 1 year after the Zenith Prime massacre. The location was deliberate and symbolic, the same station where 50,000 humans had died, now rebuilt and converted into a court of justice. Every species in the galaxy received an invitation to send observers. Over 800 species accepted. The observation galleries that had once held trapped. Terrified humans now held representatives from across known space. They came to witness something unprecedented. The powerful being held accountable. War criminals facing justice. The end of rule by fear. Dr. James Okonkwo stood in the prosecutor's section, reviewing his notes one final time. He had been chosen to lead the prosecution team along with lawyers from 15 different species. Together, they had built a case so comprehensive, so detailed, that no one could deny what had happened. The evidence filled entire data libraries. Vrask sat in a containment field designed for his species. His purple crystal body was dim now, his internal light weak. Around him sat 8 other council members who had been captured. The 3 who remained at large had been tried in absentia and convicted. Warrants for their arrest would stand forever. The chief judge was a human named Justice Martha Williams. But she sat with 12 other judges representing different species. This would not be human revenge. This would be galactic justice. Judge Williams called the court to order. The massive chamber fell silent. We are here to determine the truth about crimes committed in the name of peace, she said. Her voice was carried by translation devices to every corner of the galaxy. We will examine evidence. We will hear testimony. We will ensure that every accused has the right to defend themselves. And then we will render judgment based on the facts presented. This is what justice looks like. The trial lasted 3 months. Every day, more evidence was presented, more testimony heard, more horrors revealed. The prosecution called survivors from 43 different species. They told stories of demonstrations, of loved ones murdered, of forced submission. They described decades or centuries of living in fear, never knowing if the council would decide their species needed another lesson. Dr. Okenko presented the recordings Vrask had kept. The court watched, though many observers left the chamber in tears or rage. They watched the Zenith Prime massacre in full. They watched 42 other massacres that preceded it. They saw Vrask ordering each one, explaining his reasoning, refining his technique. The defendant kept these recordings, James said, his voice shaking with controlled emotion. He watched them for pleasure. He took pride in the fear he created. He believed he was maintaining peace, but what he actually created was a galaxy-wide prison where entire species lived in terror of stepping out of line. The defense attorneys, provided by the court to ensure fairness, tried to argue that Vrask believed he was preventing worse conflicts. They claimed his demonstrations saved lives by avoiding large-scale wars. They presented calculations showing that, too. Million deaths over 3,000 years was fewer casualties than major galactic conflicts might have. James responded to this argument in his closing statement. He stood before the court, looking directly at Vrask. The defense claims these demonstrations prevented wars, he said. But peace achieved through terror is not peace. It is occupation. It is slavery. It is violence deferred, not prevented. Real peace is built on mutual respect, on law, on justice. Not on the corpses of innocents, murdered to terrify others into submission. He turned to face the judges. My wife Sarah Chen died on this station. She died screaming. They made her consciousness remain active during the entire process so she would understand the price of resistance. But they misunderstood. She didn't learn submission. Her last words transmitted to Earth were make them pay, not in revenge, not in cruelty, but in justice. That's what we're doing here today. That's what this trial represents. The defense presented character witnesses who testified that Vrask was a dedicated leader who genuinely believed he was serving the greater good. They showed that other council members had approved his methods. They argued that holding Vrask solely responsible ignored systemic problems. We are not ignoring systemic problems, Judge Williams responded. That's precisely why all 9 remaining council members are on trial together. That's why we have examined the entire system of governance that allowed these atrocities. But individuals still bear responsibility for their choices. Vrask chose to create the demonstration method. He chose to use it 43 times. He chose to keep recordings of people dying for his entertainment. Those choices matter. The verdict took a week to prepare. The judges reviewed every piece of evidence again, consulted with legal experts from dozens of species, and ensured their judgment would stand up to any scrutiny. When they finally returned to the chamber, the entire galaxy watched. Judge Williams read the verdict. On all counts of murder, we find the defendants guilty. On all counts of conspiracy to commit genocide, guilty. On all counts of crimes against sapient life, guilty. The evidence is overwhelming and incontrovertible. The defendants created and maintained a system of terror that caused immeasurable suffering across thousands of years. Vrask's crystal body flickered weakly. He had expected this verdict. What he didn't expect was the sentence. However, Judge Williams continued, this court recognizes that the goal of justice is not revenge. It is accountability, prevention, and the creation of a better future. Therefore, the defendants will be sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of release. They will be held in facilities designed for their species' needs. They will be treated humanely. They will be allowed visitors and communication, though monitored. And they will be required to witness the civilization that emerges from the ashes of their tyranny. The chamber erupted in shock. Many had expected executions. Some species observers shouted objections demanding death for the council members. Others wept with relief that the cycle of killing was ending. Judge Williams banged her gavel for order. This court considered execution, she said when silence returned. But we asked ourselves, what example do we want to set? If we kill them, we become what they were. We become executors of justice through death. Instead, we choose life. We choose to show them in the galaxy that justice can exist without cruelty, that accountability doesn't require revenge, that we can be better than those who hurt us. She looked directly at Vrask. You will live to see a galaxy where species cooperate freely, where law replaces fear, where justice is available to all. You will watch everything you've built crumble and be replaced by something better. That is your sentence. That is your punishment. To see what you could have created if you had chosen respect over terror. Vrask said nothing. There was nothing to say. The trial ended, but its effects rippled across the galaxy. Within months, 800 species came together to form the Galactic Assembly, a new governing body based on voluntary cooperation rather than enforced submission. Each species had equal representation. Decisions required consensus. Force was reserved exclusively for defense against genuine threats, not for intimidation or control. Earth didn't claim leadership of this new organization. Humans had proven they could fight when necessary, but they didn't want to rule. They wanted to build. They wanted to explore. They wanted to help create a galaxy where justice mattered. 6 months after the trial, a memorial was unveiled at Zenith Prime Station. 50,000 names were etched into a crystalline wall that caught the light from nearby stars and made the names glow. Representatives from every species attended the dedication ceremony. Dr. James Akinko stood before the memorial, his hand touching his wife's name. Beside him stood Threshold, the Crystallian who had helped capture Vrask. They had become unlikely friends, bonded by shared loss and the work of building something better. Do you think this will last? Threshold asked, her blue crystal body pulsing with uncertain colors. This piece we're building, this assembly, will it survive? I don't know, James said honestly, but we gave it the best foundation we could. We built it on law instead of fear, on justice instead of power, on cooperation instead of domination. That's more than the Council ever did. He looked up at his wife's name glowing in the starlight. Sarah wanted to see humanity join the stars. She wanted to see us become part of something bigger. She didn't get to see it happen the way she hoped. But maybe this is better? Maybe this is what she would have wanted. A galaxy that learned from tragedy, that chose justice, that decided to be better. The dedication ceremony began. Ambassador Stone, promoted from admiral after the war ended, stepped to the podium. He was older now, grayer, tired from years of fighting and building. But his voice was strong. We remember 50,000 names today, Stone said. 50,000 people who came to the stars with hope and died in terror. They didn't die for nothing. They died so we could learn, so the galaxy could learn, that some prices are too high to pay for peace. That order built on fear is not order at all. That justice delayed is justice denied. He gestured to the memorial. These names will stand here forever. Future generations from every species will come to this place and see them, and they will ask what happened here, and we will tell them. We will tell them about the Council's tyranny, about Earth's response, about the trial, about the assembly that rose from the ashes. We will make sure they understand that justice matters, that individuals matter, that every life has value. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. 800 species, thousands of individuals, all standing quietly before the names. Some prayed, some cried, some simply stood and remembered. Among the crowd was a young Varelian student named Kess. Her grandmother had been killed in the Varelian demonstration 50 years earlier. She had traveled across the galaxy to see this memorial, to understand what had changed. She stood before the names and thought about her grandmother, about all the people across all the species who had died to maintain the Council's version of peace, and she thought about the future, about the assembly, about the possibility of a galaxy where no one had to die for someone else's idea of order. I promise, Kess whispered to her grandmother's memory. I promise we'll protect this. We'll make it work. We won't let your death be meaningless. She touched the memorial wall, feeling its warmth from the starlight. Around her, others did the same. Humans, Crystallians, Velians, and hundreds of other species, all connected by loss, all committed to justice, all working to build something better. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson, that peace cannot be built on fear, that justice requires courage, that sometimes the smallest species can change everything by simply refusing to accept that might makes right. Earth had demanded justice for 50,000 deaths. Earth had delivered it. And in doing so, Earth had shown the galaxy what humanity meant. Not conquest, not domination, but protection, memory, justice, and the stubborn, defiant belief that everyone deserves dignity, respect, and the right to live without fear. The names on the wall continued to glow as the stars turned overhead. Sarah Chen, Lisa Chen, Dr. Okonko's wife. 50,000 others. They would never be forgotten. Their deaths had purchased something precious, a galaxy that finally understood what justice really means, and that was worth remembering forever.